Hello, it's Trevor here again and welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. This video is all about getting the most from your online classes. The first stage is before the class even begins. You can do a lot of things to help yourself learn more and get more value from your online classes. The first thing to do is to check your technology, such as your laptop or the computer that you're using. Perhaps you're using a tablet or even a smartphone. It'd be ideal if you could also have a keyboard. I find that a laptop or a desktop computer is best. I prefer a laptop myself because it takes less space and I can take it away with me. I like a keyboard because quite often in an online classroom you'll be asked to type some messages or discussion points or some thoughts that you have between yourself and your classmates and the lecturer or the professor involved. And if you're trying to do that on a smartphone or a tablet at the same time as accessing the online classroom, that's going to prove a little bit tricky. Also, if you've got some good speakers, if you're in a room by yourself, perhaps you have a home office or a home study or a bedroom even where you can lock yourself away from any disturbance and noises, then some good quality speakers to help you enjoy the sounds, the discussion and any online films or videos that you have to watch as part of your classes, then that would be a benefit. If you've got noise and disturbance around your working environment, then perhaps headphones or earbuds are the most useful thing for you to drown out the disturbing noises from outside your study or from other people in your household. Also, headphones are quite good because they avoid you getting feedback when you open your microphone, assuming you've got a microphone on your computer somewhere. If you try and speak to people in an online classroom and you've got a speaker as well picking up your voice, you'll get that horrible feedback sort of squealing noise as the feedback kicks in. Using headphones, a headset or earbuds or anything like that will help you stop having that feedback. Also, a good quality microphone benefits you because it benefits the people who are listening to you. This is especially important if you have to do an online presentation or an online oral examination. Then a good quality microphone ensures that people can hear you clearly and understand what you're saying. You also need some connection to the internet, so you probably need Wi-Fi at home or a good 3G, 4G or even 5G signal. Check the costs of doing that. I find that in the UK where I am, a cable Wi-Fi connection is the best for me. Also, you might need a video camera depending on what you're doing. So if you've got something like a laptop or a smartphone, you'll have a camera built in that it is possible for you to use. But especially if you're doing online exams and you have to download software to monitor what you're doing during that exam period, it's probably better that you have a laptop with a good quality camera built into it. Or if you don't have that, get yourself quite an inexpensive these days camera that can plug into the USB port of your laptop or computing device to help you beam video images back to the examiner or the tutor who's involved in the classroom activities that require that camera to be used. Quite often I find in online classes, tutors, lecturers, professors don't normally have video cameras switched on for the audience. It's just the person who is speaking has the camera switched on so you can see and the audience can engage better with that person. But I always think it's a good idea to switch your video camera on when you are speaking. Perhaps you're asking a question. If you're able to do that, that just shows who you are and you get better engagement from the people you're talking to as a result. The second thing to do is check the workspace that you're working in. Some of us are lucky enough to have a room that we can dedicate at least partly, to a study. And that means having a flat surface, usually a desk or a table, that we can work at, and we can lay out all the stuff that we need to help us study in the online environment. So that'll obviously be things like our computer, perhaps a notepad, perhaps a mouse, perhaps our keyboard, microphone, speakers, these sort of things, textbooks, articles that you're asked to read, and such like. Also, most of us like to sit down when we're doing that work. Some of us like to stand up at a standing desk. Obviously, you wouldn't need a chair at that point, but those of us who like to sit down, make sure you have a good quality chair, because you're going to be spending a lot of time in that chair doing your online studying. The chair needs an adjustable back, so you can fix it to give support to the lower part of your back. It needs adjustable height, because every one of us is slightly different in height, so that we get the right position, the right height of that chair relative to the work surface that we're working on. Ideally, our elbow, when we're sat in the chair with our arms rested on the tabletop, our elbow needs to form a 90-degree bend when we're writing. We also need a screen. For example, if you're using a laptop or a desktop with a display, then you need that screen ideally at eye level. So as I'm talking to you in this camera now, the camera lens is at my eye level. Because if the screen is too high, you'll be straining your neck as you're looking upwards, and equally, which tends to happen a lot with laptops, your screen is too low for you, and you'll eventually get a bit of an ache in your neck as you're continuously sort of looking downwards into that laptop screen. That can also affect the reflection of the lights that are being reflected from the screen, and eventually it gives you tired eyes through eye strain, because your eyes are trying to focus through all the glaring lights and reflections that are coming back off that computer screen. So having the screen at your eye level is a good idea, cuts down that reflection, but also helps your muscles relax more as you're not having to strain your neck. Now, if that's a problem, if you're using a laptop or an iPad or something like that, then perhaps you need to raise the height of your screen, perhaps using a pile of books or something like that, just to raise it up to eye level. But then that brings on issues perhaps with a keyboard. If you're using a tablet device, a smartphone, and a laptop that you've had to raise up because you need the screen at eye level, it might be a good idea to get a separate keyboard. So that keyboard enables you to put it at the correct level for your arm length and your hands, ideally on a flat surface, so you can look at the screen and type away without having to bend down your neck and start sort of crooking your back as a result. You'll also need some old-fashioned notepads and pens or pencils. I find that's really useful when you're in a lecture or a tutorial or a workshop, anything like that, and you want to make some notes. Of course, there's electronic notepads available as well, but I find the batteries in those might not last as long as you hope, and there's nothing worse being halfway through a lecture, the professor's talking about a really key thing, and the batteries pack up in your electronic device. If you've got a notepad, a literal sheet of paper there with a good old-fashioned pen and pencil, it won't run out of battery, and you can use it through a 2 or 3 or 4 hour lecture, whatever it is you're working through at the moment. You might also, don't forget, you might need ancillary specialist equipment, things like calculators. You might be using a specific textbook or talking about a specific article that you need to have at hand during those learning events. The third thing you can do before your online class, to get the most of your online class, is to check the meeting software that you'll be using in that class. So that will depend on which systems your university professors use. Things like Adobe Connect, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts, anything like that, your lecturer, your professors will advise you as to the software they'll be using for that learning event. So get to practice using that before the online learning starts. Download the software if you need to onto your computing device. Do a test run to check that you can access it. You know all the passwords, you know all the tricks, which buttons to press to get into that software before the meeting starts. That helps you cut down any stress or anxiety you have before the meeting, because there's nothing worse than trying to access the meeting and then thinking, how do I do that? I've forgotten how Zoom works. I've forgotten how to mute my microphone. I've forgotten how to type a message in the chat box. So have a practice run. Perhaps there's an area that your lecturer has put aside in the online environment for everyone to practice beforehand. This usually happens in induction periods of your course at the beginning. Perhaps the first week or two of the course, your lecturer will advise you how to do that. If you're unsure, I'm sure you can find, using a search engine, tutorials on YouTube or provided by the software manufacturer, how to use that software if you're having any problems. Also, prepare for the online class. Just like any class, whether it's in the physical or the online environment, there will probably be activities that you need to complete before attending the class. So that might be reading an article. It might be answering some questions that the professor has left you with during the last class. Perhaps you need to discuss things with fellow students before the online class starts. So make sure you do all that pre-work or the pre-reading, the tasks that need to be completed, so you're fully up to date and at the right point in the course for that online learning session. Also, as you go through all of that, make a list of questions that you'd like to ask the professor or the tutor that is in that online learning event. By compiling the questions, it makes you think about what you're learning and makes you think about the gaps in your learning, and that gives you an opportunity to consolidate what you know and what you don't know about that subject. But it also shows the lecturer that you have completed the tasks beforehand and that you're keeping up with everyone in the course and that you're thinking clearly and you're in control of your own learning, and it shows that you're actually engaging with what the lecturer, the professor, wants you to do. Just before the class starts, the online class starts, get some drinks and get some snacks ready on your desk in the learning environment, wherever it is that you're going to be engaging with that online class, because there's nothing worse, especially if it's a couple of hours plus long, that learning event, if you get peckish or you get thirsty. It's especially important to stay hydrated with sufficient water. So some classes, online classes, can go on for hours, and you really need to keep hydrated, keep the water replenished, perhaps have a flask of water and a cup of water ready, a cup of coffee, orange juice, whatever it is, and some snacks to keep you going as well. And the last thing before the class starts is to check the time and the duration and the date of the online event that you will need to attend. And so you can tell your housemates or the people you live with, or perhaps the person at work, if you're studying at work, to please not disturb you during that time of the class. So that's all before the online class has actually started. Now, during the online class, the first thing you need to do is arrive on time. I would say get into the online classroom a few minutes earlier than the scheduled start time. This makes sure that all your tech is working. It makes sure that you've got everything to hand that you need and in your workspace. It means that you've got all your snacks and drinks ready, and that you'll be ready when the lecturer, the professor, turns up and starts the class. You'll be there fully committed to it and ready to go. It also shows the lecturer that, oh, right, I've got some keen students here. That's a really good sign to start with. Also, don't forget to mute your microphone. This is such a common mistake with a lot of students in class. And it's really, really embarrassing for everybody to hear what's going on in your background. We really don't need to know those personal details. This is, of course, unless you are speaking. Perhaps the lecturer has asked you a question during the class. So don't forget to turn your microphone on. Ask the question or speak your response, and then switch your microphone back to mute. Also, make notes as you go along, whether you've got an electronic notepad or a paper, old-fashioned analog pad and pen or pencils. Then make notes as you go along, as you would in any physical class. This will help you later remember what has happened in the class, what has been discussed. There will be a lot of things perhaps the audience is talking about, perhaps in a chat box separate to what the presenter, the main speaker, is saying. Perhaps the speaker is expanding a slide deck that they're talking about. Perhaps there's a discussion going on in the message box. And so making your own notes will help you consolidate your learning and remember later on what has happened during that class. Also, don't forget to ask questions. Don't be shy. I find a lot of students online are a little bit anxious to ask questions, sometimes because they feel their questions are a bit foolish. Well, I promise you there's no foolish questions from students in the class. I'm sure a lot of people are also asking similar questions. But also, perhaps they feel a little bit nervous about using the technology. Well, don't worry, you can't break the software, you can't break the technology by asking a question. So please, please, please do ask questions of your lecturer. This also signals to the lecturer that you're engaged, you're taking part in this online environment. You haven't just turned up, logged in, and then disappeared. Also, similar vein, contribute to the discussions. There might be a busy chat box, instant messaging box going on whilst the lecturer is talking and going through a presentation. Be part of that discussion. Perhaps the lecturer or the professor is also trying to get a verbal discussion going on between the audience. Well, participate in that. You'll learn extra things from it. It will be a good learning experience because you'll be able to explore your own ideas and the ideas of others in that discussion. And don't forget, that will only happen at that point in time. This is a live event. So whilst it might be recorded, that discussion will be sparked there and then with those people. And so you might get a golden nugget of really vital, important information to help you with your learning. So respond to the professor's prompts, respond to the professor's questions, respond also to the chat box's discussion and any points, any questions that are being raised there. Try and answer other people's questions. You know, if somebody asks a question of the speaker, you can say, well, I think the answer is this. What do you think? Is that correct? That helps you check your learning as well. Also, use emojis or other signals that the software allows you to do. You know, things like thumbs up, smiley emoji, or confused, or disappointed, or I haven't got a clue, or signs to show that perhaps you've had to step out of the online classroom for a while. Perhaps somebody knocked the door and you need to take that delivery. Perhaps somebody's calling you on the phone and you need to do it, you need to answer the phone. Or perhaps you've got people you care for that you need to just go and do something with them for a couple of minutes, but you're coming back to the classroom. Just signal that you're stepping away for a minute. That helps the lecturer understand who's there, who's missed that particular content point, and it shows that you're in control. And usually speakers don't mind if you step out for a while. Everyone needs perhaps a comfort break, to get some more water or answer the door or something like that, and it's just a polite thing to do. Now, after the online class, there's a few things you can do to help yourself and get the most from that online class as well. The first thing to do, you've written a load of notes during the class. Well, the first thing to do before you forget is to go back to those notes and review what you've written, and check that you actually understand what you've written before you're starting to forget the content of that online class. That will help you organize your notes and make them more legible and make them clearer. And that will help you in the long term when you come back to those notes, perhaps a few weeks or even a few months later, and you try and go through those notes and read them. And if you haven't made them clear and legible, it'll be very difficult for you to understand what you wrote, and it'll be difficult for you to remember what the content is there. Also, it might be possible to review a recording of the online class. Online classes are great because lecturers and professors can help students by recording the classes. This really helps if your class is in a language that isn't your first language. Perhaps it's not your best language and you've missed some important points because you didn't quite understand some words or phrases that were used. Even if it is in your first language, a recording can help you go back and try and understand better the discussion or the point that was covered that you didn't quite get the first time. Perhaps you were distracted for a short period of time during the class. You think, oh, I forgot that, what did he say or what did she say? You can go back in the recording and check out what they said that you missed. Also, you can go back to your notes and review the recording to consolidate your learning. What this means is to summarize all the key points that you think are important from that online class. So use your notes, use the recording, but also use your memory to remember what were the key points that the speaker, the tutor, the professor, whoever it was in that online class made that you need to remember and you need to understand fully. Also, the professor, the tutor, the lecturer might leave you with a variety of tasks that they would like you to complete before the next class. This is important. Like any physical or online class, you need to complete these tasks to help you consolidate and learn. And usually a series of lectures are built upon a series of tasks. The first tasks will be simpler because students are new to the subject, and subsequent tasks will build upon the previous tasks. So if you've missed a few of those tasks and you haven't completed them completely yet, then you won't be able to progress along the course, and this will impact negatively your learning. Also, as you go through all of that, you might come up with some questions. Well, make a list of those questions ready for the next online class or the next opportunity that you can perhaps email to your lecturer or your professor, or in the online environment when there's a class next time, you can ask. You've got a list of those questions ready to ask the speaker. And the final thing to do is to reflect upon your experience of that online class. What can you do better next time to help you learn more from the whole experience? But also think what went really well and try and repeat that or even enhance them if possible. If you thought, for example, your handwritten notes was a bit difficult, then think of different ways that you can do that. Perhaps you write keywords instead of whole sentences verbatim as the speaker speaks them. Perhaps the technology let you down. Well, why was that? Can you avoid that? Can you get a better internet signal somehow? Is your laptop a bit old and it's not quite up to the task? Whatever it is, Think about what went well and what didn't go so well, and try and boost those positives and try and minimize the negatives for next time. And you'll be in a great position to learn even more in your online classes next time. So hopefully this film has given you some ideas how to get the most from your online classes. If you found it useful, please give me a thumbs up, give me a like in the comments below. Ask me anything you like. I'll get back to your comments as soon as I can. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I've got lots of updates coming out very soon. So thanks very much. Bye for now.